Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Today is... I don't even know what day it is today. It's Saturday, right? Yeah, it's Saturday. And, well, Bitcoin is on the rise, but I don't know if it's specifically for good reason. Something huge happened overnight while we were all sleeping. It's all over the news. The United States did their special military operation on Venezuela. Caught Maduro with his pants down, and they've already brought him over to New York for indictment, for charges, to press charges. They captured him. They did it. There you go. The long-term threat that was looming in the background, all these bombing of the drug boats, all these land strikes that were happening here and there. It seems like it all finally concluded down to this, which, good, right? We can finally put this chapter to a close at last. Bitcoin's current price is $91,115. We are on the rise currently. I'm no longer in an active position because I got stopped out. Whatever. I'll re-enter. There's always going to be another opportunity, like I said. So it is what it is. I locked in a little profit, but could have been more. I know. Whatever, dude. We can still make more. We will make more. Negative funding rate, by the way, I don't even know why. Some sell pressure, a lot of sell pressure. People don't want this thing to rise, but it's inevitable. Bitcoin is in an uptrend, and there's no stopping it. You can't draw a downtrend on it, as I mentioned before. No more downtrend on Bitcoin for now, at least. As long as we stay above 87,000, right? That's good stuff. Other than that, really, there's no other big news that happened today. And even if there is, I'm just putting it off because there's so much to talk about in regards to Venezuela. We'll be dedicating the stream to that. Nonetheless, we will still analyze the rest of the cryptocurrencies as we usually tend to do. So let's go ahead and do that. I already mentioned Bitcoin's price rising, still uptrend, which is good. Super trend on the rise. We're waiting for new pivot levels by tomorrow. We should get that. As of right now, the rise indicates we're a bit overbought right now. We're on a Saturday. I wouldn't be surprised if we just slow down around here and relax for the rest of this week. I mentioned for the duration of this week, highest point we could ever reach would be around 92,500 due to that second resistance level we have from pivot levels there. Didn't expect much else to happen, but overall it was a green week, which was predicted in advance. That was perfect. Friday was also a great day. Can't deny that. Downtrend was broken this week, which is also just perfect. CME gap was filled. No issues toward the downside. We might have a CME gap depending on whatever happens this weekend. Friday we closed, I'm assuming, around 89 or 90,000. But we should be good either way. I still think it's going to be a little bit more of up action. It seems like the Venezuela thing didn't really impact stuff too negatively, although I would assume that it's this candlestick right over here because the invasion happened like at 3 a.m. I think. I don't remember the exact time, but once the strikes were being heard, Bitcoin dropped 1% from 90 to 89,000. Wow, big deal. That's where I got stopped out. And then we resumed rising from there. So that's your little summary on Bitcoin. Uptrend is still in our favor, which we like to see. Ethereum, current price 3,145. We're making new highs, which is good. The resistance has been hit at 3,160. Slowing down a little bit. We are a bit overbought as well. Super trend is on the rise, trying to maybe slow down at around 3,000. So I'd point to 3,000 as our most important support for now. Although I don't expect more volatility to come from this. The big news already happened and we're already taking advantage of the move, if this seems to be a good thing so far. Yeah, I really can't wait to talk about Venezuela. There's going to be a lot to discuss with it, so yeah. Okay, moving on from Ethereum, hold on. Let's see, we got Solana as well, $133.71. Continuing the rise, which is great. I want us to stay above 130 forever. Please, Solana, do your thing. Everything seems to be reversing, which is just perfect. We love to see it. Downtrend on Solana was broken. It was a bit of a late riser, but it still got here nonetheless, which is good. Super trend invalidates at 124.59 as of right now. It's still on its way up though, so hasn't really flatlined yet. But uptrend is still there. And how would we even draw one? Like an actual one? I'm assuming something like this. What happened to my magnet? There we go. Maybe something like this is what we follow for the time being. That looks appropriate to me. Moving on to Zcash. I do have an active trade open here. Perfect purchase, by the way. I bought it as soon as we started rising. I entered at 485. The current price is 510. We did rise a little higher. Highest was 519, 520 actually. Still a negative funding rate. Am I getting paid fees? Yeah, the funding fee is positive for me, but the overall like make or taker fee, that's still negative, so we haven't really broken even in that sense. Hey, I'm still getting paid fees nonetheless. It's better than having to pay them every 8 hours, which is annoying, but part of the deal. Sure, do your thing. From here, honestly, I think I'm doing this wrong, or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm thinking small, because I'm starting to concern myself a bit with the fees, okay? In futures market, you do have to pay the funding fee every 8 hours. You either pay or you get paid, depending if you're long or short. Now, this could work in your favor, depending on what you're doing, if you're longing or shorting, of course. I think what I should do here is, if the funding rate is in my favor, I'll use the futures market. If the funding rate is not in my favor and I want to go in favor of whatever trend we have, long or short, I would do it in the spot market where those funding fees are not charged. Yes, the money will have to come out of my pocket, but yes, I can also afford that for the time being. But then I come to realize, then why am I just doing this in futures market overall? I could just do it in spot market if I'm only going to be trading, like risking $50 per trade, for example. I'm just doing it for now just to kind of test things out. So far, it's had a really good success rate. I've been predicting every move. I know I'm so good, but I'm thinking, like, if I'm using the futures market, I should be risking more. But then I'm like, okay, as of right now, I don't have that much more to risk. I'm going to take it slow until I start getting actually good income again, start paying off some debt, because it's getting ahead of my credit report by now. So no, I'm not late on my fees or anything, late on my debt or anything like that. But dude, United States has been charging me for, you know, the Easy Pass. If you go to New Jersey or New York, you have like this toll thing, like you have to pay on the toll roads, right? And you get this little gadget that kind of gets scanned and it automatically charges your account. We opened it under my account because I'm the only tech savvy guy in the house, apparently. Sure. And well, now I'm getting, apparently there's a $1 fee even if you don't go to the United States. I don't think I'm going anytime soon, so I have to return the thing, and it's a fat little gadget, right? I don't know how I'm going to fit that in the mailbox. I guess I'm going to have to go to like the post office and send it that way. Would I have to pay something to send that? Otherwise, I'd just rather keep paying the $1 fee. But then it's like, if I do return the little gadget, I get a $10 deposit back, which will, first of all, offset any late payments that I have. I got like a -6 balance because it's been 6 months. So I don't know, weird stuff like that. Why am I even talking about this? Zcash has got a nice uptrend and I'm in favor of it. Oh yeah, I was talking about my debts. Nice. My take profit is ambitious for now, but I might end up taking profits a little sooner, depending whenever we see Zcash being overbought. That's when I'd consider it. We're still got enough chance to rise. A bit of 50-50 right now. RSI is like smack right in the middle at 50, so it's anyone's game at this point. This is also why I didn't really move my stop loss to break even at this point. I'm still willing to take the risk because I still think we can drop to even lower than this. If tomorrow we drop to 450, we're ideally still in an uptrend because of the line. Now the super trend itself doesn't reflect that yet, but it's only because time has not yet passed, and it's kind of, I would assume, expecting price not to drop lower than 470 within the next 4 days, for example, right? Time and price correlates in this matter. So I'm still keeping my stop loss down here for the time being, and should allow enough breathing room if we do need that. So we can hopefully, ideally, continue higher when this uptrend and get a nice profit from it. So that's what I expect with Zcash. SUI on the rise, making new highs. 169 is our highest today. Current price is 167. Non-stop. I like it. Deserved. SUI had this coming, so here we go. I mentioned the resistance at 172. That's going to be an important one. We're on our way there pretty soon. I don't think we're breaking that, of course, during this weekend. We'll have to wait for new pivot levels next week. I would assume a small correction would come first, of course, because this is very overextended. Wherever the next like pivot support level is generated, that's where we'll like drop to before we continue higher. And super trend, I don't know, should follow whatever uptrend line we can draw from this, which it's pretty difficult to draw at this moment because the line is just, it's going to be too steep or too shallow. And I don't know specifically where to draw it yet, but the only good news is this downtrend line is broken. But you do have this big one to worry about, but we've got enough running room before we have to worry about that. Something about $2.80. We're fine, dude. That's a long potential rise that we could take advantage of before we see like another major correction to maybe back to sub $2. I don't know. It's going to take time though. We'll see. I gotta delete this. Alright, moving on to Hyperliquid, up 3% today. I'm going to delete this now. You get it. I'm 100% right all of the time. So that short position would have worked. I was just too scared to do it because I didn't trust in myself. Whatever. It's on the rise currently though for Hyperliquid, up to $25.22. The lowest price that we hit was this support level at 23. What is this? 23.76. That's where I would have put the take profit either way at a 1 to 2 risk reward ratio. That's what I was expecting from it. Worked out. Hyperliquid still has not flipped its trend over, so it's still in a downtrend, whether you like it or not. We have not made a higher high. So, what would the downtrend even look like? I don't think I could draw anything pretty from here, but we'll see. Something like this, perhaps. No, that kind of got pushed over. It's difficult to draw one right now, but it's looking like whatever you do try to draw, it's trying to break, which means that I would expect this to be above 27 to invalidate whatever super trend downtrend that we do currently have. And expect some higher movements on Hyperliquid hopefully soon. First barrier would be, of course, $30, most important level. And then we would meet whatever level we approach with this downtrend. It's going to take some time still. No real downtrend for Hyperliquid that I could draw, but you are still technically in one because we have not made any higher movements yet. You could hypothetically say we're seeing the start of something, like this being the lowest point. That could be a potential start of an uptrend, and then you'd have your... What would you call that pattern again? The ascending triangle pattern, where like you oscillate around here until ultimately you break out and move on to the next level. That's kind of what we could expect with this, maybe. So we got here. Chainlink, we had the trend flip over finally, and we are meeting with this resistance, 1344. It's going to be a tough one to break. We did see a couple of other altcoins, like, what did we see? Ethereum, I think Solana, and SUI, making a higher high today. Chainlink has not done that yet. We are facing this downtrend line right here, which is kind of preventing the movement upward. I still think it will break. We are technically in an uptrend from here, but don't be surprised with a correction if it does happen. Could drop to $12. I don't know, $12.50 I think is what an important level I mentioned, psychologically speaking. And maybe we could use that to reaccumulate and go back higher. So there might be a bit of lag on Chainlink still, but I like where it's going nonetheless. And on that lag, it's probably where I would consider entering a position to go long. That's terrible drawing. I'm assuming a drop like this to 1250, right? That's where I'd consider going long on here if we ever do get that opportunity. Because I would expect this downtrend line to be broken. Something like this. That's my expectation for it. And I'm going to keep the drawing here so I do not forget. I don't often look at it, and I'll keep my analysis just for a reminder. Here's another example of an altcoin that made another higher high today, BitTensor. reaching the resistance at 260. The highest was $260.64. Current price is 257. Uptrend is very healthy. Finally deserved. Moving on from that, Aptos continuing its movement upward, but we didn't make a higher high today specifically, but yesterday was a great day overall. We hit 193. I made my profit already. I'm fine with it. Waiting for the next correction. Could potentially reach 175 with a correction here and still maintain its uptrend. Would be a great entry potential. And this has to be adjusted here. That's crazy how I bought the exact bottom over here. It's happened twice now, okay? Aptos and now Zcash, like the perfect exact bottom. Whatever, I'm just so good at what I do, aren't I? Not to toot my own horn or anything, but yeah. Rest of these, I'm still waiting for them to start recovering soon. Hopefully, this headache will get rid of itself. Just need time. Let's get to it, guys. Big stuff happening in Venezuela. This was at 1:34 a.m. So that was, yeah, that's a perfect coinciding with the movement downward that we see with Bitcoin over here at the 11 p.m. candle. This is a 4-hour chart. So 11, 12, 1, 2 a.m. right? During that time was when this was going on, was when the price of Bitcoin was crashing 1%. Wow, big deal. So people were a little bit concerned with this because ultimately we do not want new wars. And people are like, well, what is Trump doing? He's starting a new war. Literally, his New Year resolution was peace on the earth. And now look what he's doing. He's bombing Venezuela. There were reports that came out that the U.S. is currently conducting airstrikes in Venezuela's capital, Caracas, with U.S. helicopters seen in some clips. Military installations and refineries are currently being targeted. That was breaking news at like midnight. And this is pretty humorous, I guess. The U.S. Air Force also destroyed the mausoleum where former Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez was laid to rest. Remember the guy? He died of cancer, I believe. And, well, I guess his memorial site was also just bombed. Like, yeah, just screw that guy too, by the way, while we're in the middle of trying to capture Maduro, Nicolas Maduro. People were looking at this suspiciously, though, like, well, a regular soldier with a man-pad could have downed a couple of helicopters. Stopping these helicopters is extremely easy, even for an insurgency, not even to speak about an army. This is so blatant. Seems like the military just let this happen. I do believe so. They did give a press conference later on talking about how they did the whole thing, and they did kind of mention, like, without giving away too much information, yes, we've been studying what this guy, where he lives, what he eats, what does he do day to day, what time he goes to sleep, all that kind of stuff. And they conducted the operation overnight. Obviously, some people might have been tipped off because, yeah, like it says here, the military just kind of let this happen. And they did also mention only like one helicopter was a little bit damaged, but it was still like safe to fly and it came back. No problem. It's still functional. No casualties, by the way, from the U.S. military. Nobody was injured. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was killed, I think. So there you go. Now, this has got mixed opinions across the globe of you shouldn't do that versus thank you for doing that. We needed this. Representative Melanie Stansbury, I am assuming she's Democrat. She's New Mexico's 1st congressional district. Are you Democrat or not? I don't know. She says the White House is confirming U.S. military operations in Venezuela tonight. Let us be clear. These strikes are illegal. The president does not have the authority to declare war or undertake a large-scale military operations without Congress. Congress must act to rein in him immediately. Of course, the president has the power to do this, but then, of course, that would be a dictatorship, so that's where the Congress comes in, because it's a democracy, right? Okay, sure, fine, whatever. But come on now. You know what also is funny? I saw this news, and I just didn't report on it, because at that time, yesterday, I was like, who cares about Venezuela? Nothing ever happens. This is probably just a nothing burger. China did actually go to meet with Maduro to discuss joining forces, and then Trump captures Maduro the same day, which is pretty crazy. In fact, the Chinese delegation is still in Venezuela. Trump captures Maduro and sends a powerful message to Xi Jinping and China at the same time, basically. Hello, Driven Daily. I think most people are thrilled at the outcome. I do believe so too. It's been received with a lot of praise, but some criticism, but I think overall praise. I'm going to read through it all, and then I'll give my thoughts at the end of it. We're going to go through all the evidence, through all of it, see what everybody else thinks. The people in the Chinese people that went to Venezuela, they were shocked by it, of course, being sent that powerful message by the United States. They were shocked and strongly condemned the US's blatant use of force against a sovereign state and action against its president. Such hegemonic acts of the US seriously violate international law and Venezuela's sovereignty, and it threatens peace and security in Latin America and the Caribbean region. China firmly opposes it. I think it's because you're salty you lost your biggest trading partner in America, the whole continent, right? And that's another point of that the United States also made, is that, well, we want to protect our whole continent, and we can't have the influence of Russia, China, Iran with whatever's going on in Venezuela, right? That's part of the reason why they did that, and some people do praise that for sure. The Chinese spokesperson says, "We call on the U.S. to abide by international law and the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter and stop violating other countries' sovereignty and security." They also claim that, hey, you know what, this is an illegitimate government. Maduro stole the election. You know, they had it coming. They had their warnings. Here you go. Of course, Mandami, the mayor of New York City, he opposes it. By the way, he says, "I was briefed this morning on the U.S. military capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, as well as their planned imprisonment in federal custody here in New York City." That's why I'm talking about this guy specifically. Otherwise, everybody commented on this, and I'm not going to go through what every world leader had to say about the Venezuelan president being captured by the United States. This is pretty funny, though, saying that I was briefed. Dude, you saw it on Twitter. Come on. Even Elon Musk reposts this. X is the #1 news app on the App Store in Venezuela. Everybody is looking at what's going on. They're getting the latest updates on X. And of course, Elon Musk wants some of that praise. Anyways, back to Mamdani. He says unilaterally attacking a sovereign nation is an act of war and a violation of federal and international law. So a lot of people who oppose it, you're going to see them re-explain this same rhetoric. This blatant pursuit of regime change doesn't just affect those abroad. It directly impacts New Yorkers, including tens of thousands of Venezuelans who call the city home. They left. Okay, anyway. My focus is their safety and the safety of every New Yorker, and my administration will continue to monitor the situation and issue relevant guidance. Oh, please. Get out of here. This is J.D. Vance's statement on the whole thing. Well, first, Trump's official post on it all, flashbang warning. He says the United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. This operation was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. Details to follow. There will be a news conference today at 11 a.m. at Mar-a-Lago. Thank you for your attention to this matter. J.D. Vance says the president offered multiple off-ramps, but was very clear throughout the process. The drug trafficking must stop, and the stolen oil must be returned to the United States. Maduro is the newest person to find out that President Trump means what he says. And same thing what Elon Musk was saying. The FO part of FAFO, find out. Kudos to our brave special operators who pulled off a truly impressive operation. Apparently it was all live streamed and Trump was up at 1 a.m. watching this whole thing unfold. And a PSA for everyone that is saying that this was illegal. Maduro has multiple indictments in the United States for narco-terrorism. You don't get to avoid justice for drug trafficking in the United States because you live in a palace in Caracas, sorry. Other people are like, no, it's illegal. You're against regime change and now you're for it, so what are we doing? Yeah, bit of outrage from both sides. I don't know. Actually, not from the other side, of course. What else we got? Pierre Polyev. Also, I want to talk about what he has to say. He congratulates President Trump for arresting Maduro and freeing the people of Venezuela. This is the also kind of he's supposed to be the Prime Minister of Canada, but he lost. He lost to Mark Carney, which is just insane. But anyways, he says, congratulations to President Trump on successfully arresting narco-terrorist and socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro, who should live out his days in prison. The legitimate winner of the most recent Venezuelan elections, Edmundo Gonzalez, should take office with the courageous hero and voice of the Venezuelan people, Maria Corina Machado. Maria Corina Machado. Down with socialism, long live freedom. So they did talk about who is going to be ruling over Venezuela. For the time being, it seems like they're not appointing anyone else. They're not even appointing the current vice president because obviously it was picked by Maduro himself. He's probably related in that sense. But it's just going to be run by the United States. They're going to rebuild the infrastructure, the economy, whatever. And just annex it at this point, dude. Anyways, and then they will, I guess, hold another election for somebody else to replace the leadership. There you go. The majority of Venezuelans voted Maduro out in 2024. Keep in mind, yes, we did have those elections. He decided to steal the election anyways. America just let the world know that if you steal elections, there will be consequences. Today's a huge win for humanity and democracy across the world. Hey, what about the 2020 stolen election? What are we going to do about that one, huh? What, are you going to tell me you're okay with it now? I'm just kidding. This part of... never mind. I was going to say something about Maria Corina Machado. She won the Nobel Peace Prize, which that should have alluded to the fact that something like this was bound to happen at some point. You know, the Venezuelans had their election last year. Let me go back to this post. The Venezuelans had their election last year, and Maduro kind of stole it because it did seem like the other party was about to win with Machado and Edmundo. And then, you know, they kind of just gave up on it. They're like, okay, fine. I think he even got arrested, the counterparty, right? And then Maria Corina Machado wins the Nobel Peace Prize nominee instead of Donald Trump, by the way, which was outrageous. And then, you know, we all just knew, like, why is she being brought up again? Why did she win this Nobel Peace Prize? Surely we're going to do something with Maduro, get him out, and then have her replace him. That's why she's kind of being brought back up in relevance when it comes to the Nobel Peace Prize. That's just one little thing I wanted to point out. Mike Johnson says, I've spoken in the last several hours with Sec Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and the nation will hear from President of the United States in his address at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Today's military action in Venezuela was a decisive and justified operation that will protect American lives. This was due to, like, the boats. Every boat that they destroyed that carries a lot of drugs saves 25,000 American lives, because that's a lot of drugs. Nicolas Maduro is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans after years of trafficking illegal drugs and violent cartel members into our country, crimes for which he's been properly indicted in U.S. courts and an arrest warrant duly issued. And today he learned what accountability looks like. They did claim that he was in the cartel of the Siete Soles, the Seven Sons, and the Tren de Aragua as well. He's got relations to it or something like that, so I guess they used that to kind of indict him. President Trump is putting American lives first, because that's another thing they said, like, hey, how is the regime change in Venezuela supposed to be American first? That's what one of the reporters asked him. He's like, well, we're putting American lives first, and this is how we're doing it. We're saving your lives. Succeeding where others have failed, and under his leadership, the United States will no longer allow criminal regimes to profit from wreaking havoc and destruction on our country. Wreaking? Is that a word? Wrecking? Wreaking? Am I just overthinking the word? Yeah, wreck. But that's not how you spell wreck, right? Wreck is W-R-E-C-K. To destroy something, literally. And this is also to damage or harm something. A cause? Dude, I don't know English. Whatever, dude. The Trump administration is working to schedule briefings for members as Congress returns to Washington next week. Our brave military personnel who executed a precise, successful operation deserve our gratitude and congratulations. I mean, yeah, honestly, pretty good, successful operation. You can't deny that. Trump was on the phone speaking to Fox News, and he said, yep, it's true, guys. We captured them, and they are... Maduro and his wife are currently on the USS Iwo Jima. They're on a ship, and they'll be heading into New York. They went by helicopter on a nice flight. I'm sure they loved it. That's pretty funny. And on that, the ship trip, on the trip, this picture was taken of Maduro, and people were like, wait a minute. This guy looks like Dr. Disrespect. And he literally comments, just stop. But he's leaning into it. This is another streamer, by the way. This is what he actually looks like. And the picture that they took of Nicolas Maduro looks exactly like him. Like the headphones, the glasses, the mustache, the facial expression, everything, the hair. It's just so perfect. It's so funny. So yeah, he's leaning into it. That's pretty cool. Here's the indictment that was released for Nicolas Maduro. I am not reading all that, but there you go. He was in New York with or without Mandami's consent and indicted there. This was pretty funny, and they actually did something about this. So the U.S. kidnaps Maduro. Maduro is now in the U.S. illegally. What if ICE kidnaps Maduro? They'll have to deport him to Venezuela. Then Maduro is in Venezuela again, and then they're going to have to repeat the cycle process again. It's pretty funny to think about it like that, but they actually did something to address this. The Trump administration announced it has paused deportation flights of illegal immigrants to Venezuela. It's pretty cool. Pretty funny. It's also part of to make Mamdani calm down a little bit, because he's saying, oh, now the Venezuelans feel attacked. What am I going to do with the Venezuelans that live in New York City? And Trump's like, dude, relax. The Venezuelans are loving it. Which is true. You can see a lot of Venezuelan reaction streamers or whatever. They're all celebrating this, right? Because now they're saying, yes, it's free again. The land is free. I also saw Argentinian president saying, great, this is what libertad, liberty, that's what it's all about. So deserved is what he was saying. Yeah. It was also to like calm down, like I said, Mandami. And since he is in New York, you remember who else is in New York? He's going to get the P. Diddy treatment, dude. Nicolas Maduro will likely be held at the same New York City prison as Sean Diddy Combs. Oh my goodness. Why? Why does every criminal get the Diddy treatment? What is up with it? First it was Sam Bankman-Fried. Next it was... Who else was the other guy? Come on. I can't forget about this now. Some other guy. He was another crypto criminal. Whatever. And now Nicolas Maduro. He's going in there. Pretty funny. What are we doing? You guys remember, I did cover this too, by the way, when, I actually don't remember if I covered this, honestly. I should have. This has been going on for years, right? Maduro being the tough guy. I surely did cover this, yeah. And Elon Musk was like, oh yeah, well, come fight me. He will chicken out. And Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro challenged Elon Musk to a fight, and Elon actually accepted. Now that he is in the United States, he could do the funniest thing ever. Like, actually put them both in a ring, Elon Musk versus Nicolas Maduro, and go at it. Wherever you want, as we say in Caracas and the neighborhoods, if you want it. I want it, Elon Musk. That was, yeah, I did cover this. He was literally saying, you know, the thing on miedo, Elon Musk. You know? It's pretty... Anyway. This also happened. Clearly insider information. Yesterday, a new account on Polymarket, okay, made a massive bet that Maduro would be out of office by January 31st. And yes, we have seen these polls before. We've talked about them on Polymarket too. Somebody really bet on this. Today, the United States carried out strikes on Venezuela and captured Maduro, and that trader has now made over $400,000. Was he an insider or was he lucky? He was obviously an insider, dude. And we also have a representative Richie Torres. He's introducing a bill in response to this. It would ban government officials from trading prediction market contracts when they have access to non-public info on it. It's the Public Integrity and Financial Prediction Markets Act of 2026. It's gotten that bad that now this is a thing. First, we are having to deal with the Stock Market Congressional Trading Act. Remember that? Nancy Pelosi, Marjorie Taylor Greene, that one other lady, Debbie Schultz from Florida. All these Congress members making profits off insider information with companies. Of course, they buy into a company, it rises $1 billion because they knew that something big was about to happen. Yeah, we're doing the same thing now with prediction markets. It's gotten to that point. Crazy. Venezuela, that was efficient, says Grant Cardone. Bush took 8 years for Saddam Hussein, for example, spending 170,000 troops, 4,400 US casualties to get Saddam Hussein of Iraq, right? Trump captured Nicolas Maduro while we were sleeping with 0 casualties. There you go. That's the big difference, right? So I will admit it was a really good operation. Marco Rubio told the New York Times that he will wait to see if the current Venezuelan government hands over the oil. If he refuses, new attacks on Venezuela will follow. That's another thing, is that now we are going to seize their oil. And that's got a lot of people questioning, what is this going to do for our meme coins? And that's what we will be discussing next. Also, by the way, just on a side note, I don't know why this was a big meme. Is people were like, oh, Marco Rubio realizing that now he will have to run Venezuela or something like that. I don't know if they're going to appoint him to run Venezuela. I guess they might. The irony of last night's events in Venezuela, it will likely push oil prices even lower. I'll agree with this. Markets have been on edge about geopolitical tensions between the US and Venezuela for weeks now. However, President Trump has confirmed that Venezuela's oil infrastructure was not damaged last night. On top of this, President Trump says the US will be very much involved in Venezuela's oil industry going forward, and China is going to get oil. In 2010, Venezuela was producing over 3 million barrels of oil per day, which is now down to 900,000. If the US truly takes control of Venezuela's oil industry, much more supply is coming to the market, which means that oil and gas prices would head much lower. And that is one of the goals of President Trump, is to, your gasoline, drop it below $2 a gallon in price. It's absolutely going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. And there's more about this too. It also will impact Canada, by the way. We'll talk about Canada in a sec. Venezuela currently has 303 billion barrels of crude oil reserves, which Trump says that the US now controls. Oil prices currently are $57 per barrel. Markets are closed, by the way, which makes Venezuela's total reserves worth $17.3 trillion. That's how much oil Venezuela has. That much money worth. And yet they're still terribly hyperinflated, bad economy, all that stuff, whatever. Crazy. Even if the US sells this oil for half the market rate, that's still $8.7 trillion. Hey, this is not enough to wipe out the US debt, but it's a good chunk that could come out of that. In other words, in 12 hours, the US has gained control of oil reserves worth more than the entire GDP of all countries in the world aside from the US and China. Oh, wait, is that real? Crazy. That's 4 times larger than the GDP of Japan. Most people do not realize how much the world just changed. Oil markets will react to this news for the first time on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time when those markets open. The next few days will be critical. And that is half the national debt, basically. What stocks do we buy? Good luck, dude. I'll talk about which stocks could be impacted by this soon. Oh, literally, now. We're talking about it now. So, what stocks would benefit from these plays? Defense, AI, drones, and strategic infrastructure. So stuff like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, I never heard of this. RTX, missiles, air defense. General Dynamics, submarines, armored vehicles. Kratos Defense, jet-powered autonomous drones. AeroVironment, and AST Space Mobile. I've heard of this. The regime change and energy rebuild plays would be Chevron, Valero Energy, Phillips 66, Halliburton. Oh, there you go. I've heard of Halliburton and an insider trade that happened with it, which I don't think is the insider trade is still active, but I remember a member of Congress buying that. Schlumberger, I never heard of that. What about the oil? Okay. I guess that's it for that, but I'm sure there's more with oil. I'll have to research it more, though. Good news and bad news. Good news for the end of a narco state. Yeah, bad news for the Canadian economy. Here we go. Canadians have no idea what this means for our oil industry and our economy because Canada also exports mainly oil as well. A US-friendly president will be installed in Venezuela. The US will lift sanctions from Venezuela and heavy crude oil will be imported into the US, meaning that Canada's primary customer for crude oil, which is the United States, will now have cheaper options available. They're not going to need our oil, and we're the biggest trading partner. That's just awesome. By Canada not pushing through with Keystone XL, expansion to Asia and Europe will cost us dearly. Trump wanted Keystone XL. He mentioned it several times earlier this year. What year? 2025? And now he's got something bigger and better. The biggest oil reserves on Earth. This was the key leverage we had on CUSMA, Canada, United States, Mexico, MA. What is the A? America? The US dependency on our oil. The act, I think. See, what does this mean? Again, remind me. United States, Mexico, Canada Agreement. That's what the A stands for. Okay. Now that is gone. Carney took too long to negotiate. Thanks, Guy. Trump likely realized that Canada will never supply the quantities of oil and gas that the US wants or needs, and instead he diversified. I know this is going to make Carney sweat. It's not good news for the Canadian economy. We had a potential for a monopoly, and we blew it. Wonderful. Loving it. Yeah, Canada just lost all leverage with the USA. Prime Minister Carney overplayed his hand. The US doesn't need Canadian oil anymore. El Canada. El Canada, oh Canada. What do we do? That's all the news I had. Really? Dude, I had so much more to talk about. We can still scroll through Twitter, I guess, to see what other people's reactions to all of this is, right? All right, well, now it's not even trending. Thank you, Nicolas. Maduro. Oh, there's still more stuff happening currently. I should have checked my notifications. Oh, another thing, remember the bounty that they had on Nicolas Maduro's head, the $50 million? Well, not necessarily like on his head. It's just a figure of expression. Like whoever gives up his location, his information, gives him up to the United States, you get a $50 million reward to kind of incentivize the people, his own people, to betray him, right? Seems like that's not happening. We're not getting that paid out. It would be funny if Trump just paid it to himself because he's like, well, I went and got it myself, you know, with my troops. So what are you going to do about it? No, but he did specify that in the press conference that he's like, nope, nobody's getting paid that amount. Nobody helped. Okay. I wanted to check this here. There's a lot of stuff apparently going on. Maria Corina Machado is preparing her... Trump is preparing her to take power in Venezuela. And Venezuela's Supreme Court orders Vice President Delcy Rodriguez to assume the interim presidency. Okay, well, there you go. It seems like that is happening, but it looks like Machado will be replacing. And yes, she is Jewish, maybe, or Zionist. Good night. Happy New Year. Maduro's first words at New York City DEA. That's crazy. The U.S. releases new photos of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in custody after being illegally kidnapped from Venezuela. Sure. He had an arrest warrant. But to what extent? Do you go to, like, literally another country to capture the guy? Close-up video of Nicolas Maduro being... Okay, I can't read. Get out. Being escorted out of a plane by U.S. authorities in New York after being kidnapped from Venezuela. I read this one already. Transported to U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration office in New York City. I've been on these streets before, man. This is Manhattan. Just a day before capture, Maduro offered cooperation to the U.S. Sure, dude. We read that as well. Another visual perspective of the attack on Caracas, Venezuela from an observer overlooking the city. This is a 40-second video. You can see the bombings happening right there. Wonderful. Okay. That was the post from Trump. Yep, we saw that already. Trump spoke about it as well, saying that Venezuela took our oil rights. We had a lot of oil there. They threw our companies out. We want it back. Senator Mike Lee says he spoke with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who told him that Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was arrested tonight as part of an arrest warrant. He will be brought to the United States to face criminal charges. This is older stuff by now, right? Yeah, 16 hours ago. This is the original picture, by the way, of Nicolas Maduro on the USS Iwo Jima. This is a ship, right? It's not a plane? USS means like ship, right? Yeah, it's a boat. Good. Here's Emmanuel Macron. Wow. His response on all this, flashbang morning. Venezuelan people are today rid of Nicolas Maduro's dictatorship and can only rejoice. So it seems like he's in favor of it. It seems like the majority of the Europeans are in favor of this. By seizing power and trampling on fundamental freedoms, Nicolas Maduro gravely undermined the dignity of his own people. The upcoming transition must be peaceful, democratic, and respectful of the will of the Venezuelan people. We wish that President Edmundo González Urrutia, elected in 2024, can swiftly ensure this transition. I'm currently exchanging with our partners in the region. France is fully mobilized and vigilant, including to ensure the safety of its nationals during these uncertain times. Okay. More footage of that. Trump says that oil companies will go into Venezuela, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. Yeah, why not? Some pictures of them watching the live stream while it was all going down. Moment of tension. Look at that. These are some pretty good photos, by the way. Pretty cool. The worry on their faces, man. Trump says we're going to take a lot of money out of Venezuela so that we can take care of the country. Yep. We read that. We saw that. We seen this. The polymarket trade. How is my polymarket trade? I have it bet on... Oh, wow. No, they're betting on Maria Corina Machado. Enter Venezuela by January 31st. I don't think it's going to be that fast. I'm not going to bet on it, though. This is funny. Will the U.S. invade Venezuela by... Oh, why are the odds not up? Whatever. Seems like my money has not changed. 1866. That literally hasn't changed. There's no volume on this. People are betting on Venezuela stuff. On my... Will Bitcoin drop to 65K this year? The answer is no, by the way. We read that. Yeah. There you go. That was going on. What else am I thinking about with Maduro? Yeah, that's really it. The suspicious trade. What do we do with that guy, man? The guy who's suspiciously capturing Maduro. All right. Wasn't there also the White House posted something I don't... Okay, I don't remember what I'm looking for. Other stuff that people were saying, Maduro was an illegitimate dictator and narco-terror kingpin with American blood on his hands. The American people in the Western Hemisphere are safer as a result of this operation. So yeah, those are the 2 points of view of things. Oh yeah, this was also here. He literally docks his location. I'm in Miraflores. Don't take too long, coward. Come for me. And he's like, okay, well, we're going FAFO. Don't play games. The banger pictures. Yeah. Oh, I remember. I wanted to see what Mario Nawfal, if he posted anything about the whole speech. What is this? Fresh footage just dropped of Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores being escorted, agents in tow, after the wild US raid snag. The regime back home is scrambling. Okay. Maduro detained by US. Venezuela's court rushes in VP as president. Okay, so there you go. What is her name again? Delcy Rodriguez looks like will be replacing Maduro in the meantime. Is she equally as bad? I don't know anything about her. They're now debating how to make it all look illegal, but let's be real. This isn't about law, it's about survival. She's stepping in to guarantee continuity, but what's really being protected here is the same corrupt machine Maduro ran. Yeah, that's what I would have expected either way. What else we got? I think that's about it. Oh boy, Kamala Harris. She says, Donald Trump's actions in Venezuela do not make America safer, stronger, or more affordable. Dude, would Kamala Harris have done any of this? I don't think so. Would she have been worse? Yeah. Whatever. That Maduro is a brutal, illegitimate dictator. Okay, no. Learn to grammar, miss. That Maduro is a brutal, illegitimate dictator does not change the fact that this action was both unlawful and unwise. We've seen this movie before. Wars for regime change or oil that are sold as strength but turn into chaos, and American families pay the price. Okay, only one movie before, and that's Iraq. And compare the two. We did a much better job in Venezuela than in Iraq. The American people do not want this, and they are tired of being lied to. I don't know, half the country agrees. This is not about drugs or democracy, it's about oil and Donald Trump's desire to play the regional strongman. If he cared about either, he wouldn't pardon a convicted drug trafficker or sideline Venezuela's legitimate opposition while pursuing deals with Maduro's cronies. Is that so? All right, Kamala. Venezuela's oil was at its 20% power, not anymore. So they're going like full potential unleashed on the oil is what it seems like. That's what Pete Hegseth seems to be saying. Maduro hurt Americans, now it's FAFO time. He literally said the FAFO thing during his press conference. Only the best US troops could have captured Maduro like that. That's another thing that people were saying is like, oh, where's the woke DEI, transgender, woman, black soldiers? It was all a bunch of buff white dudes who did the capturing. So yeah, that's another thing people wanted to comment on. Here's the press conference. He did also pardon the drug convicted Honduras president. Right? That's another thing that people are criticizing Trump over is like, okay, well, you arrest Maduro because of drug, but then you pardon another president in Nicaragua from drug. He said, well, I only pardoned him because his party won. Okay. People were like, yeah, that's a bit hypocritical. Yeah. What is this? I don't know any of these people. Who is Lula? Okay. I think that's about it. So that's been going on. It's wonderful. My thoughts on it. I do feel like the elections were stolen. So this was bound to happen. I am a little tired of seeing this whole Maduro stuff. I obviously would want Venezuela to succeed because if it's not succeeding, those guys are fleeing Venezuela and coming in as refugees to the countries, right? To other countries. Not just specifically like Canada or US, it's also happening in like Ecuador. We're seeing a lot of Venezuelans go in there too, and well, if things are not going good back home, they're going to bring those same customs over here. In Ecuador, it's also a big issue with the whole drug trafficking thing. There's a lot of gang activity there too. I think Colombia, of course, is the main proponent of it all. Although they do seem to have like a stronger military, that kind of stuff. But I mean, like, that's why the drug cartels, they move their operations elsewhere. They'll pick Venezuela, they'll pick Ecuador, and then they'll send it up to Mexico, and Mexico send to United States. That kind of stuff, right? But yeah, I don't know. Something's gonna have to also happen. I don't know. It would be cool to have Trump kind of like fix the rest of America, like all South America, make it drug free completely. I don't know how feasible that would be, but it seems like a step in the right direction, what he's doing to Venezuela. Of course, some people are saying, oh, it's a threat to sovereignty. It's like you're literally invading a country. It's illegal to do this, but it's for a greater cause, of course. If Maduro was not actually doing anything good for the people, get him out. But then it's also like, what this country does within its borders is not your right to change. Otherwise, why aren't you going to invade China, for example, if you disagree with what they're doing? Why don't you go invade North Korea, Russia, whatever the case may be? And to a certain extent, that does kind of happen. We're seeing this already happening with Russia, Ukraine. Russia's invading Ukraine because they disagree with whatever they're disagreeing with. I still don't even fully understand the disagreement. The fact that they belong to Russia, is that it? Same thing with the China-Taiwan thing, which it hasn't happened yet, but it, you know, they're dangling the carrot in their face, if that's the right expression, right? They're conducting their military operations, circling the island, about to invade Taiwan. Like, oh, we're going to invade, or we're not going to invade. We don't have enough money to invade. Oh, but now we've got all these ships and boats and airplanes, and we're about to invade again. We're going to destroy your semiconductor business. That kind of deal, right? And all because Taiwan belongs to China. You know, that kind of stuff. So we're seeing it happen either way. So it's a cool show of power as well. It could also send a message to all these other countries, to China, to Russia, to Iran, right? Being like, look, man, we're strong enough that we could just kick you out anytime we want. So you better behave. We kind of did the same thing to Khamenei last year in Iran. When we were bombing Iran's nuclear facilities, again, the same criticisms happened. Like, this is not America first. You're bombing Iran. You're fighting Israel war. You're getting dragged into it. And ultimately, this does not benefit us in any way. And you're just like attacking another country, basically. But it's for the greater good, is what they were saying, right? We don't want Iran to have any nukes. So, and if we're suspecting that they do, and they're doing it like in underground facilities, we're going to have to do something about it. And Trump also put out that menacing tweet to the Ayatollah saying, hey, man, hey, nice little bunker you got there. Would be a shame if I, dropped a little bomb in there, You better watch your back, pal. And then ultimately they're like, oh, we'll spare you this time. I know we killed like your top dogs all across the country of Iran, but we'll spare the Ayatollah because he's an important figure to the IRGC, so we'll let him live. And now the guy is kind of he's still putting out these tweets, by the way. I follow him on Twitter, which is pretty funny. Khamenei Jr. He's posting these like menacing tweets like, oh, come on, where's that one tweet? We will bring the enemy to its knees. We will not give in to the enemy. That ranting American sits there talking about the Iranian nation, spewing a combination of slander and promises, false promises, deception. Okay, pal. Dude, you're gonna get bombed. Don't ask for it, please. Even the president of Iran is like, dude, it's not it's not the Americans' fault. It's not the Israelis' fault that these protests are happening all across the country. It's our fault. We got to do something about it because we've disappointed our people. That's kind of what even the president of Iran was saying, right? And I mean, Ayatollah was giving you a different story. It was like, screw these other countries, lies, slander, temptation, fallacious arguments. Man, he's got great English for being Iranian. Okay. Any news? Yes. Another video of President Maduro arriving at the DEA headquarters. Yeah, we saw that, dude. That's old news. I saw that like 2 years ago. All right, guys. Yeah, that is all for today then. That's my thoughts on it all. I know we extensively talked about Maduro. And specifically to crypto, nothing has been going on. It's a Saturday. But that was the biggest thing that happened today. Interesting stuff. We'll see how it continues to develop. I would prefer there to be no leaders in Venezuela. Let the Americans take over, fix up your economy, and you guys hold your own elections and you elect whatever leader you want in Venezuela. Americans will have no influence. I don't know if I want Maria Corina Machado in there. It seems kind of suspicious that like all this praise that she's been getting is like they want her to be president. Winning the Nobel Peace Prize, once again, I'll point that out. Like, come on, dude. Be less obvious about it. But let the people decide, right? If she's going to run again and people elect her, go for it. Fine. You win. And that's on you. Like, whatever leader you elect, you deserve that leader. We in Canada here, we do deserve this leader because we just suck. Yeah. I'll look at RSI heat map. I want to see what else is moving because I feel kind of bad. I have not talked about crypto that much. What is this? Invite friends and win Bitcoin. You guys want to be invited so I could win Bitcoin? How about that? Everything is overbought. Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Doge, Pepe, still massively overbought. WorldCoin, Bonk, Shiba Inu. Your meme coins are rising. That's what this whole thing means for your meme coins. Polygon Matic. Rising. What's oversold? Random coins. Oh. Hey, thanks for refreshing for literally no reason. I'm assuming the 4 hours is up? No, it's 10:05. That's crazy. Nothing special here. A lot of rising overbought tokens. Sure, that's good. Capital rotation, right? Where's gold? Here we are. Yep. Gold in a downtrend, by the way. Yeah, this is absolutely going to be capital rotation. But we don't know for sure, okay? War happened. Gold should be rising. That's usually what happens during times of war. And I do have oil right here, which I do track as well. It's at $57, dude. If we do get what we expect, this thing might crash pretty hard. I don't know how much. That's a big supply, though, that they do hold. That was also one of these things I always question myself, is like, if Venezuela has this much oil, the most oil in South America at least, I don't know how much it is compared to the rest of the world. Surely they can pull themselves out of this bad economy. But we just never know. But the US will step in and with their businessman, entrepreneurial brains, they'll figure something out. All right, guys. I'm going to end it here. That's all we have to talk about for that. Overall, decent rises. Let's hope Zcash continues to moon. I like where it's going so far. If you enjoyed, make sure you like and subscribe. I will see you tomorrow. Schedule will be perfectly normal for the rest of this week. As I mentioned, God's plan. It all worked out, at least for now. I don't know. I'm still getting conflicting numbers with the schedules, but I'm sticking it to a 9 to 4 shift. And if they complain about it, I have someone else to complain to. All right. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a good